It's creepy. I don't like it in here.
Yo, what's the matter with you?
Where did you go?
Wild. Put your soul into it. Wild. What's going on around you?
So when I want to connect with perhaps a specific tree or a new tree in general, I would like to just physically walk up to it, and I'll give me some certain space. Like I'm not like, face to bark or anything like that, but I walk up to it and I almost like speak to it, sometimes out loud or in my mind. It just kind of depends on the environment or how I feel that day. And I'll kind of speak to it saying, hey, I would like to connect with you. How do you feel about that? And I'll just wait to see what response I get. Sometimes I could physically hear a response. Sometimes it might be like a download, or I'll get a different body cue. Like sometimes it'll be just a gut feeling, or I'll feel warmth. Other times I'll physically hear. But most of the time when it comes to me connecting with my plant ability, I usually always hear. That's the one that always is more dominant for me, is physically hearing from them as if they're people talking to me. So I just simply turn my awareness to focusing, I guess, on their aura, and I'm focusing on connecting with that, or maybe just touching physically with it and saying, trying to understand what response do I intuitively feel, whether it's hot or cold or, heavy or light or whatever that is. And it just kind of went from there.
Well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you taking your time this week to join us. So please welcome Heidi Jaffe. How are you? So first of all, I'd like to ask you how you got involved in being a medium. What drew you into mediumship field?
So I was not trying to be a medium. I honestly wasn't overly spiritual or religious or drawn to anything. I always had an ability to see and communicate with spirit when I was younger, as many mediums do. But it really wasn't until my first son was born that basically what I call the floodgates opened, when I literally just started receiving messages for very specific people, essentially out of the blue. And what's very interesting about it is the way it came about is, one, I had some experiences with photographs and faces and orbs, and one particular one that used to follow me around. As I mentioned, I can send you a picture of him. We jokingly call him Red Orb Man. I sometimes call him George. Very specific man who came in the corner of a photograph at one point, and I could get him in tons of photographs. But so anyway, and I started having a lot of activity in my house as well. Feeling people standing there, pennies flying off of counters, behind chairs, footsteps, etc. And somebody one day just said to me, have you ever just sat and thought, or asked me, have you ever thought of just try to see what they want? And so I did. And that's when I started getting specific messages. I literally would just close my eyes and I would see a vision of somebody I knew in some way, someone that they knew that had passed, even though I, didn't know anything about the person I was getting information for, how they passed, what their message was. And then, I would call them and then tell them what I got, and it was always correct. And now as a medium, you never just tell a stranger something. That's considered very taboo. It's very self-centered and narcissistic to assume that someone wants to hear your information. That's more of an ego thing of like, I just want to know if I'm right. So I just, so you know, I feel that way. And I wouldn't ever do that. I don't do that. But at the time, it was people that I knew. And so I just kind of fill it out. And I would make up something, a way to call them, like, hey, weren't you telling me some time ago, like you had like this old friend that passed in a car accident or something, and his name was John? And they're like, well, no, but I know that person. I'm like, okay, just hold on a second. I have to tell you something. And so that's really how it started for me. And then the psychic came after. And, when it started happening, I realized, that this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to do my best to be the best I can at it. And so I just started to find any sort of training I could find. And then I got myself certified. And blind tested. And then next thing I knew, I had an office, and it's been about 10 years. I've done over 9,000 readings at this point.
Oh, that's amazing. So how long did you start doing mediumship professionally then? How many years has it been since you actually started doing all your readings?
10 years.
About 10 years.
Yeah,
okay.
about 10 years. And I have clients all over the world, every continent. It makes no difference if people in person or not. I'll do a Skype in Hong Kong in the morning. My next one will be a phone in the Michigan. My third one will be someone sitting on my couch, and that's how it is. Every day is all over the place.
That's good. Then you have a lot of experience with different types of mediumship and psychic work. And
I work with people across the board in all psychic and mediumship aspects. Some people just want to do a psychic reading, which is just, seeing things about their life, right? What's going on with their relationship, their work, health, family members, etc. And some people really just want to be in touch with loved ones, validations that, I'll validate who the person is, how they pass, the age, the relationship, very specific messages, items to identify them, etc. To give healing, whether it's here to say I'm sorry or just to say I love you and everywhere in between, or could you please just get a new car? It keeps breaking. I've had silly things like that even come out. And some people really just want to mix of both. And so I'll use loved ones on the other side, and then I'll tap in, psychically. So I can help somebody. I can look into someone's health. I've caught cancer on numerous people, which they have found that have been caught and been removed from a reading that has happened with me. I work on fertility as well. I can look into see, when people may get pregnant, if they have fertility issues, maybe it's with the man, maybe it's with the woman, etc. Some stuff like that, as well as, marriage, etc. And then a lot of it is, mediumship and really hearing from the other side, which is, is one of my favorites, because seeing the excitement on people's face when they hear that, that one item or that one name or whatnot, and just that feeling of like knowing it, still warms my heart, every single time.
Yeah, it's great satisfaction when you can actually please your clients that you have coming to you and they know you're the real deal. So yeah, no,
there's nothing more important to me than somebody having a good reading. I always joke with my clients, because I've kept the same clients since I started, and all their family and their friends, because they trust me, and I built that trust because I do my best to be accurate and, be good at my job. And I always tell them, I was like, look, let me know if I lost my mojo one day. I will fire myself. I don't want anybody to have a bad reading with me. That's not the jam. If somebody said they weren't happy, I'd be like, let's redo this. Here's your money back, or here's somebody else. Maybe I'm not the right person, because people should be getting information that makes sense and that they can validate. Now, I always say there's going to be a couple things that aren't going to make sense. There has to be, right? One, there's going to be something you need to validate later, right? There's going to be something future that hasn't happened. Also, I'm going to simply get one or two pieces of trash in there as well, because it's not perfect. It's not a perfect thing. There's going to be human error, and I have no ego about anything. I don't mind letting things sit out. If somebody says, I always say, as long as at least 90% makes sense while you're with me, I sleep well at night. So I tell everybody. And, if somebody, and my goal is 100%, that being said, but if somebody says, oh, one item didn't make sense, or one name, I go, I don't care. That's fine. I'm going to have human error. There's going to be. That being said, majority of the time someone calls me later and goes, oh my gosh, I found that item, or that was my grandfather's name, or my mom knew what you were talking about, or whatnot. It's important to be accurate and good at your job. And I'm fortunate that I connect with all my clients, but there's going to be the one once in a blue moon that you're just not going to connect with, but that's just human energy. And that really doesn't bother me. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that happens quite often. People don't connect, or they don't jive on certain things. So then I guess the reading doesn't work as well if you don't connect on that level.
I feel if things don't make sense in the first couple minutes, something's wrong. And I always tell people, when they've told me about readings that they may have had with other people before me, yeah, I said this whole thing, nothing made sense. I was like, you need to stop the reading. Don't let that happen. And any good medium is going to address it and know it themselves as well. Do you know what I mean? That's a good psychic medium, is you do your best, but everybody has to understand, not everybody's the right fit for certain people, or if you feel like something's off, you have to address it. That's how I feel,
And do you do that yourself sometimes? Do you step and say, do you have a feeling, or is it more the client will have the feeling that it doesn't work?
It probably happens once every year or two. I'll just have one person that I'll just go, I don't feel you. we are not jiving. And I've just said, I don't think I'm the wrong person. I'm sorry. I think I'm the wrong person for you. And like, I need to stop this. Like, this does not work for me, you know? But fortunately, that is a rarity, but it's going to happen to, you know, to anybody, because that's life. Like I always equate it to, it's like if you go to a party, right? You meet tons of people. There's some people you're going to meet and you're going to have like an, okay, so it was really nice to meet him, nice acquaintance, whatever. And then there might be one person you meet that like, man, I feel like I've known this person my whole life. And like, you feel like you're best friends from the get-go. And then there's some people you meet and you go, man, that person is rubs me the wrong way. I don't like them. Like there's something like our energies don't work. And then you just won't talk to them. You know what I mean? Like that's all life. But that being said, though, I've done this for a long time. And, you know, I also learned to work with so many different types of personalities and people in so many different states, from happy to the bottom of the pit of their life, and understood how to work around blocks I may see that they have, you know? So that's just experience and, you know, learning people and how to approach things, or to, you know, maybe get someone to relax so they're not putting so much pressure on things, and then the reading, you know, is smooth.
Yeah, that works the way in life too. You just meet the right person, you know, it clicks right away, but sometimes you just don't click with somebody. So
yeah, and some people you just have to work with, you know. It's just such a mishmash. Go ahead, you know.
Yep, for sure. That happens to the best of us, and you just have to work with it. So, but I want to backtrack a little bit. Growing up, when you were developing your abilities and getting into the field, did you have any experiences as a child when you were growing up that kind of drew you into it more, or that you realized, well, this is what I want to do when I grow up? Or
No. I had no idea I was going to be sitting in this chair by any means. I mean, I was always drawn to, you know, the curiosity of the other side and the paranormal, I think, as many people are. But, you know, when I was really young in my first house, I used to feel things there, especially down this one hallway by my bedroom. But, you know, you're little, you're 5, 6 years old, you're not thinking too much about it, you know. But it was really when my great grandma passed away. I was 8 years old, and I was holding her hand when she passed. I was the only one in the room when she passed, just by fluke, because we were at my grandparents' house and she lived there, and everybody was in the kitchen, and I was very close to her. And after she passed, I would see her all the time, you know. But, you know, as a kid, you're just thinking like, I just miss her, you know what I mean? And you know, and so I would have that experience. And then as a teenager, in the home we lived in, I always felt like there was a energy in this, you know, in this back room. And interestingly, my other grandmother mentioned it to me and one other person. So I knew I wasn't crazy. It's like, you know, the only 2 other people ever came to the house were like, whoa, what's the deal back here? And I was like, right? There's like somebody back there. I don't know what it is, you know? And then I did have an experience actually when I was about 16, where I felt that energy in the house. It was actually one of the scariest moments I've had, where I felt someone in my room, and I felt myself talking to them, like, you know, like, what do you want? And it's like, I couldn't see them, but I could feel them. And it was so crazy. I felt my shirt like this. I was laying down in my bed in my bedroom, and I felt literally just get pulled up to a sitting position. And I literally like froze. Like, I don't know if I've ever been so scared in my life, because first of all, you're a teenager. And second, and what's funny that goes through my head at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like when they're in the movies where something like this happens and you're just telling someone like, why aren't you running? Just run, like, just get up. And you're literally sitting there just like paralyzed. I'm like, oh my God, I'm that idiot girl in the movie that doesn't move and just sits there for something really bad to happen, you know? And I eventually went to my parents' room. I slept on their floor as like 16 years old for like the next 3 nights. I was so freaked out. Anyway, so then that's, you know, slowly passed, and things kind of, I didn't really see a lot probably in my early 20s, but I was doing like a lot of traveling, a lot of just like living life, you know, dating, exploring, you know, all that. I wasn't very focused. And so that's kind of like how it was in the beginning. And then when I moved to Florida, when everything just kind of quieted down after my first son was born, that's when everything just started just all over the place, just sparks everywhere.
So did things continue after you moved, after you started opening up and connecting? Did things kind of escalate, or did you sort of figure out what was going on by then, or?
Well, it was when I just started getting the specific messages, and I was right about them, that's when it kept going. Cause it's like a muscle, and the more you train it, the stronger it gets. And the more you trust, the stronger your intuition gets, the clearer the messages are, because you start to learn what's right and what's wrong. Like I say, like when I'm in a reading, I always say it's the craziest things that I say that makes the most sense later, which it is. I've had the craziest things come out in readings that are making sense, but I've learned that gut feeling of when something feels right, as crazy it is, or sometimes I go, this one might be a piece of trash. I don't know. So, I said, let's just put it to the side. That one may not make sense, but I want to leave it, and that's just practice. But I'm such a determined person. Like, it's just who I am. I'm so just built that way and very passionate. And so there is no room for failure or like not getting to the next level to learn, and I begin every day as a beginner. And I think that's part of the reason, I am successful, because I don't have any ego about it. And I learn every day. You know what I mean? I go into every reading like this is the first one I've ever done, and so excited to accept anything that comes in to try to interpret it.
So did you find it difficult when you started doing it to interpret things, or was it kind of an easy journey for you?
Yeah, it was hard because you don't know how it's coming in. It's coming in from all over the place, and you don't know who goes with what or where it's coming from, and so I started to organize it in a certain way for people to stand in certain parts of the room, so I know who they are. And so I know exactly where my information is coming from, because I can do a reading for somebody and I can have anywhere from 1 to 15 people, and I can give you the person out of every single one and tell you how every single person would react to the situation I'm talking about. And, my client's like, yep, that's how my mom would say, that's what my brother would say, but that was by organization, just learning to, connect in a particular way that it makes sense to me.
And has that helped you throughout your readings with people to organize your guests when they come in from spirit?
Oh yeah, no, but they still bounce around sometimes, because I always joke, it's like, I still don't have control anything. I don't have magical powers last time I checked, so I just do my best. But I mean, 99% of the time people come right where they're supposed to. There's a couple people that'll overlap, like aunts and mother-in-laws overlap in my right corner sometimes. But I get the evidence by validating who it is, by saying, this was this woman's age. This is how she passed. This is a personality. And then we know, oh yeah, that's my aunt, or, oh, nope, that's my mother-in-law, by what you described. So we get the evidence that way.
That's a good way to do it, to organize your guests that come in through spirit, to know who's what and who's there for who, right? Because otherwise, how do you know who they're there for unless they tell you? But when you got like maybe hundreds of spirits coming at you, like, how do you organize that?
Yeah. And, as I said, there can be anywhere from 1 to 15 in a reading, but they're all very good about standing where they are, where they're supposed to. And then I have what I call the photo bombers, which everybody knows. They're the ones you weren't expecting, and somebody you totally forgot about, or someone was saying hi. Those happen quite often. I mean, I just recently had her coworker, came in that she wasn't expecting. Old boyfriends come in that passed, from when you were in high school. I mean, all sorts of people.
Can you tell us maybe one story that you know of that might stand out to you when dealing with the client? So maybe one of the experiences that you had in your past that was like really an eye-opener for you? The first cancer one was really eye-opening, because I didn't know I could do that yet, because it's always growing. Like, I'm always learning more. Like, even in the past year and a half, 2 years, all of a sudden when parents come through, a lot of times they bring like their best friends with them. That never happened before. And I was misinterpreting them as potentially aunts or uncles, because I was like, oh, but they got this other, person describing, but then people are like, oh yeah, that's their best friend, whatever. And that happened a few times. I was like, oh, that's what's happening. And so, so I've had moments like that. And so, like, with the health stuff, it wasn't always like health was my forte by any means. If anything, the dark stuff is, like the suicides, the murders, all of that, like that is what I'm really, really good at, of getting like unbelievable detail at those things.
I put myself into everything, but those, it's even more. If someone's lost a child, because as much as we all need validation for everything, there's certain ones that I just, I will drain myself just trying to get like every nickname, the color of the shoelaces, that they were wearing, their favorite song, whatever it is, that there was like just, no doubt. But I'll give you a couple, one being a random item, one being an experience of loved ones coming forward, and then also with the health. So that's kind of like a mix of psychic and mediumship. This week, there was a gentleman who came in and his wife had passed, and she was giving me her eyelashes over and over again, right? So in every reading, there's always stuff I've never seen before. I've never in my life had somebody come through and bring attention to their eyelashes. And it was so weird. So like her eyelash was so big and so pretty. And I was like, I don't know what her deal is. Like maybe she was always made herself up, or maybe she always had on fake eyelashes, or I wasn't sure what it was about, or maybe her eyes were just particularly pretty. So I was like, so I told the husband, I was like, I don't know what it's supposed to mean, but there's something about her eyelashes. And he smiled and he's like, I know what that is. And I was like, I have no idea cause I've been going, what am I supposed to do with that? And, he said, this is so crazy. He, always saved all of her makeup stuff. And she used to wear fake eyelashes all the time. And he's kept all of them and he has them in a Ziploc bag. She was acknowledging that he still has all of her eyelashes, which he does, which pretty out there, but 100% true. Couldn't make that up if I freaking tried. Okay. Like that just happened this week. Sometimes people wonder, how quickly can they come forward after they pass? That's a really big question. When should I have a reading? And I know there's this general thing. Yes, you should wait 3 months, and et cetera. I completely disagree. I'm not gonna say I disagree. I don't think that's absolutely necessary for everybody, because it is a personal thing. Some people get a lot of healing from having a reading immediately. Some people may need 6 months or a year. Some people, it may never be the right time. It's not for everybody, but people are always curious, if someone's going to come through. And I've had people come through within minutes of passing, within 24 hours, et cetera. I had a woman who came in a few years back, and this one always stuck in my head because she did email me after. It was the only time anything like this extreme had happened. I've had similar things happen since, but there was a gentleman who came in my corner over here. This is where your male friend's spouses and in-laws come. Okay. And my photobombers come from there. That's my corner for that department. And a gentleman came forward, and I knew he was associated with a spouse. So he was a quote unquote, what I call friend. So it had to be a friend of hers or a friend of her husband's. That's the only way it could be. And he had shown me, he was in his 60s. He just had a heart attack. I knew there was a school connection, like high school or college, with him. I believe I got his name. I don't recall at this moment what his name was. And anyway, she's like, I have no idea who you're talking about. And I was like, look, he's come forward, let everybody know he's okay. And so I was like, look, when we get photobombers, majority of the time they are validated either by the end of the reading or shortly after, because sometimes they're a friend of a friend, that sort of thing happens all the time. And so I said, just hold on to him, because like he's clear and like I'm positive. And so her reading was at 12 p.m. that day. And she went home. She emails me later to tell me a few hours after she got home, her husband got a phone call that one of his dearest friends from college had passed at noon that day from a heart attack. And he came through in her reading, like it was coincidence or whatever you want to call it, that she was having a reading right when he passed, and she had a connection to somebody he knew, and he wanted to let everybody know, hey, I made it on the other side. So he passed to me, then he came forward. We didn't even know he was passed. That was one of the craziest ones. I mean, because I forget all my readings because I don't record or take notes. I don't want people's personal information, but it's like my short-term memory is really bad. But, things like that, like those random little things will just, always stick. And there was a reading that I did for a woman who she asked about her daughter in her reading. I can't remember who she had come forward. It's not really relevant, but she had said to me, could you look into my daughter's health? And I said, sure, let me look into your daughter's health. And I saw that there was some stuff going down in her lower abdomen. And I was like, things are really off here. And I said, if she doesn't get this figured out, like she and her husband aren't going to be together in a year. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't feel right. There's like something wrong down there. She needs to get she needs to get checked. She also feels like she's feeling a little bit crazy and her marriage is like on this brink. And I was like, I don't see her being with her husband in a year. But I didn't know exactly what that meant. I wasn't assuming that means she'd be dead or divorced or whatever. I just knew like there's something that's going on. She's not going to be there in a year. I said, but just, get her checked. Anyway, 6 months later, I do a reading for a woman and, doing a nice reading. I think it was her grandmother, something, whatever comes through. And the girl goes, can you look into my health? And I said, sure. And I said, I see that you had some issues, maybe like, I don't know, a growth or some something going on in your lower abdomen. So either you've had surgery or you need surgery to check this out and whatever. But I was like, but I think you're okay, because I think this feels like a little bit more past. And then she goes, I got to stop you. And I said, sure. She goes, you did a reading for my mom 6 months ago. And I wanted just to have the reading to tell you, thank you for saving my life. And I was like, what? That still makes me weepy. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, you told my mom, because I don't have anybody's last name. I didn't know this was a daughter of somebody I, did however many hundreds of readings ago. And she said, you told my mom about what's going on. She said, I went to the doctor and the doctor found cancer in my ovary and they went to remove it. And the doctor said, if they hadn't found it, she would have been dead in a year. Crazy, right? And that one always stuck. And then I started getting a lot of cancer stuff after that. I had somebody come up to me in Jersey Mike's when I was with my kid and his friend a few months ago, and she came up and just gave me a hug. And I was like, hello. And she's like, I know you're not going to remember, but you saw like something in my like liver and they found it and they removed it. And I was like, oh, okay. My son is going, is that a client? I was like, yeah, but the good news, they're happy, and so, I've got stories that can go on for days, but, that's just a couple.
Yeah, no, that's amazing stories. And especially a life-saving story like that you were able to actually help somebody survive something traumatic. So
yeah, like that was pretty amazing, and so, and I've been fortunate that, that's happened a few more times. And I work on it with every client. I always do my best to get, the best information I can. Some people I'm going to get more on, some people I'm going to get less on, kind of nature of the beast.
Do you start getting like more of the same type of requests from your clients? Say you had that cancer issue. Do you find that happens more and more often if you have like one odd thing that happens like that, say the cancer or the suicide or certain topics? Do you find that those topics come back again and again?
Yes. So this is what's interesting. Because I don't know why anybody's coming into my office, right? I tell people, give me a fake name. I don't need a last name. Pay with a prepaid credit card. I don't care. Just sit down in front of me or pick up the phone and I'll do what I do. So I don't know what people need and no one's allowed to give me anything. The first thing I tell everybody is please do not give me any information about you. All I want are yeses and nos, and I'm going to do my job. I say, I'm going to do all the work. But I do tend to get a lot of suicide. Like it is my unintentional specialty. I get a lot of it. I do get more health stuff now as well, but it's like, but I'm not choosing it or knowing that it's coming in. I'm just noticing that influx is. So the answer is yes, but it's not something that people tell me I'm coming in because I want you to talk to me about someone who passed from suicide, or can you, I want to talk about cancer in my family. No one's allowed to give me anything, but yes, there is a lot. I get a lot of murders as well. I've been able to come up with details that even the parents didn't know. That just happened 2 weeks ago. And I have a police department that just called me to work on a case, So I do get more once those things start coming. Cause I think, whoever's there or whatever's there, they're like, okay, she's doing well with this one. So let's send her a few more of this kind and this kind, and I'm sure there's other people, other mediums who get, maybe get more pets or more, I don't know, dementia or whatever. I mean, I get a mix of all of it, but I do think that is absolutely the case.
Yeah, it seems that way sometimes, right? It seems to be like, oh, well, I got this one oddball case and then I haven't had before, say suicide or something like that. That hasn't been a common thing before in the past, but now it's all starting to come all the time. So
like I always had it, and though there's heightened things that happen in our life, right? Because there's a lot more people that unfortunately have found themselves in this position and feeling forced that way, right? Just because the nature of our world. So, there is that factor. It's just, I can have 3 a day. Like, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. And they're all different. I've never seen a single one alike. I've never generalized a single one. Everybody's got different reasons. Some are apologetic, some aren't. Some was a rash decision, some was a chemical imbalance, some was a long time coming. I mean, you name it. It's all different.
Yeah, it's just strange. Yeah, sometimes it happens that way. It just starts coming and there's no reason for it. But obviously you're good at doing that. So maybe that's why it's coming to you. So
yeah, I try to. But that being said, I get, tons of people who pass from dementia or accidents. I mean, there's no 2 readings that have ever been alike because it's impossible, because everybody is unique. Everybody's unique families. They have unique things going on in their life, whether they have a terrible marriage or a great marriage, or kids that are, sick, or, lost a lot of loved ones, or only lost one great grandmother that they never knew because they've been lucky because everybody's lived a long time. It's like, there's no norm to anybody.
yeah, exactly. So I'm going to touch on one other thing here that you just brought up. Do you do a lot of work with the police department then on cases? Do they call you for cases, or is that something that you don't usually do?
Just one. No. I used to, when I first started getting this, it was so many crazy stories. I literally started getting cases of people who were passed from like another state in my house. And like, it was weird. Like, I picked up a girl who had died on the side of the road in Arkansas. I think it was Arkansas or Kansas. And I ended up calling the police department out of my mind. Like, I wasn't out of my mind, but I'm just like, oh my God. But I knew things about the case. And the guy was like, he even wanted to friend me on Facebook because he's like, how do you know all this? I was like, I don't know. But there's this girl and she had this, something in her pocket. And I know she was on like this kind of road and she had this hair and this was her weight and this was her first name. And anyway, because I got all of it. And then I got the information online. I was like, oh my God, all that was right. But I wasn't working on anything necessarily. But just recently there was something that came up and it's kind of in the works right now to potentially help with a case where I had details that nobody else knew. And so, I hope I can be helpful. The only thing that's tricky with that is, it's really cool to be able to get stuff that everybody knows, right? Even though the mom may know, but like the police know, whatever, super cool, like a cool party trick, right? Not a party trick, but you understand what I mean, right? So it's cool that I can get this information without anybody giving me anything, no pictures, no details, no nothing. The tricky part is getting something that can be helpful to get to the next level. And that's the only thing, because I spoke to him, I said, look, he's like, it's really, he's like, I wouldn't normally be open to this. He's like, but you've gotten stuff that I can't deny is very interesting. And I said, I'm happy to look at stuff. My only hope is that I can give you something more than just what you know. Does that make sense? So like, I hope there's something that has come up that, I'd said to her at some point. So, but no, it's not a normal thing. And I don't think a lot of police departments like working in that way. You know what I mean? And I totally get that. I don't really put myself out there for that. This is kind of a unique thing that literally just happened recently. And honestly, I do hope I can help with it. And it'll be what it's going to be. It's not something I'm going to pursue. It's like, if it comes, great. If not, I'm just going to keep doing my readings for my clients.
Yeah, no, I was just curious because some psychic mediums do that for a living. They help out the police department on cold cases or whatever.
Absolutely.
So,
and and I'd be like, if it came, I'd be open to it. But I just think things come when they're supposed to. I'm not one to kind of push or force. It's like, I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and this is coming for a reason. I hope for a good reason. I hope I can be helpful. No,
for sure. I think this is a good point to switch a little bit and start, if you can, tell people what your services are that you do offer, and maybe explain to people what your services actually are that you do for people.
Well, sure. My main service, I'm very cut and dry. I am a psychic medium. I do psychic readings, which is looking into things in your life, past, present, future, where you're at, based on things you've manifested or what's, things that are coming, regardless, and how to navigate to help this is what's happening. Are you okay with this? Or do you need to, shift gears in another way, right? Or just to be prepared for something on the other end. And then also mediumship, which is bringing forward loved ones from the other side and bringing forward very clear validations like, hey, I've got your dad who had a heart attack. His name was John, and you guys were super close, but he was an alcoholic, just to give you a, silly kind of made up thing there. So to bring forward that, and then whatever messages they have and maybe advice they have about their life. And so my main goal is to help people get the healing that they need. And so I just link in and, kind of follow it from there. That's what I do primarily. I do teach. I've been on a hiatus from teaching for a while. COVID had a lot to do with that. My schedule has a lot to do with that because I tend to get a little booked too far in advance, which is my fault. But I do hope to go back to teaching soon, hopefully this summer. And then I really do like doing house clearings. I just don't have the time to do them and to be driving all over the place for them, unfortunately. But I do enjoy doing them. Usually have some good success with those. Some houses can't be cleared, but anybody can tell you that, especially paranormal. It's like some you can, and some like they're going to be what they're going to be, so it's like accept it or move out.
Yeah, work it out with your extra guest in your house or move out. So I agree. Sometimes it just can't be worked out. So how do people reach you or get in contact with you if they want your services?
I have a website, which is HeidiTheMedium.com. And everything is available there. I have a pricing page. I have a book now page. I do open the schedule periodically. Most of the time you're going to see it's booked out because they go quickly. But I do have my schedule online. You can book directly there.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Heidi, for joining us here this week on Haunting Live. I appreciate it very much for you taking time and joining us to talk about what you do and how you went on your journey in mediumship. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, it's been wonderful. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.
The intuitive part happens when all of a sudden you realize that you're looking at pictures, right? You're looking at pictures on cardboard that somehow make so much sense to you or your sitter that you can't really explain why, right? Because it's, tarot is a strange thing to do. It's not very logical. When you start to try, to break down why it works. It's one of those things that I would say it shouldn't work, but it does.
It wasn't until after I started meditating when I was probably in my 40s or so, because I was on Wall Street. I was getting, totally stressed out. I started meditating every single day just to relax. And after about 12 months of meditation, one day I had a spiritual awakening where all of a sudden I saw 4 spirits in my mind's eye, and I had this dramatic experience, which was absolutely beautiful. And after that awakening, it was really where all of a sudden the door kind of reopened.
So this guy, I was giving him, his mother showed me what she looked like, and she was giving me evidence of her life and how she passed and all these things, and he's just acknowledging, yes, I'm not sure, whatever you're not sure of, just write down, you'll remember it later. And just before the spirit was about to be done and I was about to wrap up the reading, she gave me the finger. My face dropped and I'm like, oh shoot. I'm like, why did she do that? Because that never happened to me before. And I'm going, why did she do that? Do I tell him? Do I say this to him? And I said, I can't withhold information. So I said, listen, sir, I don't know how to tell you this. And it's a little strange because this never happened to me. I says, but your mom gave me the finger. He was laughing so hard to the point of tears.
As spirit works with us, when the student is ready, the teacher comes, and there was an elderly gentleman that came to get massage work. There was something about him that was so different. The white hair, the most crystal blue eyes I'd ever seen. So he's on the table and he's telling me he has this shoulder problem. And I said, okay, I can do blah, blah, blah. And he said to me, no, we're going to do something different today. So I placed my hand above and I felt the discrepancy where the injury was. And he said, I want you to take your hand and move this energy around. And then afterwards, I looked at him and I said, well, who are you? Where did you come from? And he just smiled at me and he goes, I'm just a traveler.
Missed this week's episode? Watch it on RIB, Rhode Island Broadcasting, replaying our episodes every week on Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. Follow them on social media on Facebook or on YouTube.